All right. So we are going to close out this session with a really amazing panel, full of a group of very shy individuals who don't like to talk. So we're going to be pulling teeth to get them to speak. So if I could bring everyone up, Brian Frieders, Dr. Danny Wu, Chief Christopher Bator, Kevin Quinn, Jeff Pauley, Larry Grubbs, and Dr. Erin Kobitz. Do we know where she is? Okay. All right, so to get us started, instead of me rattling off all of these summaries, the purpose of this panel really is to start conversation with everyone here, talk about, summarize what we've been talking about all day as far as cancer in the fire service. Where are we now and where do we want to go? As we mentioned, we're coming toward our 10-year anniversary with FCI, and we've done a lot, but there's still so much more to do. So we want to hear from leaders in the fire service, as well as you all attendees here in person and online, of what some priorities are with research, with the clinical space, with outreach, education, survivorship. So I'd love for you guys to each introduce yourselves with the audience so they know who we're talking to.
Guess we'll start over here. Chris Bator, I'm a Division Chief for Safety, Health, and Wellness for the City of Coral Springs-Parkland Fire Department. I also proudly serve as the President of the Florida Firefighter Safety Health Collaborative.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Pauley. I'm here representing a very small subset of the fire service, fire investigators. I serve on the Health and Safety Committee for the International Association of Arson Investigators.
Hi, my name is Dan Wu. I'm the evil twin brother of the guy that spoke this morning.
My name is Brian Frieders. I am the retired fire chief in Pasadena, California, and the president of the Firefighter Cancer Support Network.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Quinn. I represent the National Volunteer Fire Council, which is, and I want the researchers in the room to hear this, we represent 687,000 firefighters in the United States.
Good afternoon. My name is Larry Grubbs. I am the State Safety Officer with the Florida Forest Service representing the wildland fire community.
Amazing. So as you can see, we have a wealth of knowledge. We tried to get leaders from each subgroup within the fire department as well as organizations. So to start off, if whoever wants to start, where do
I would like to start, Natasha.
Okay. All right. Where do you see top priorities?
I'm going to start before the question.
Perfect.
I want to take a moment to thank the University of Miami on behalf of all of us and the Sylvester Comprehensive Cancer Center, Natasha, Alberto, and Erin for their leadership and what you're doing for firefighters across the world. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so who wants to talk next? Let's discuss what your main priority or what you see a need for in cancer research right now.
Can I follow up?
Sure.
I want to thank the researchers and scientists because to fight this battle and extinguish cancer in the fire service, it is just so impressive of what we've learned over the past 12 years and the work you continue to do. So, and I heard it a number of times today, you are the heroes, so we thank you for that as well. Now you can go.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, we're done.
We're good?
So I'll chime in because I can, and before Jeff Pauley takes the other 45 minutes of this conversation.
That's right.
I think it's interesting because the cancer fight in the fire service has been going on for more than 20 years. Our organization has been involved for 19 of those years. And what I've found fascinating is even with all the research and all the things that have happened and all the information we've all been given, We still see on a regular basis firefighters behaving cavalier and stupid. And I think the disappointing part of this, and there was a lot of conversation yesterday about the culture and the behavior of firefighters, the invincible syndrome. I heard Slick this morning talking about the invincible syndrome. Nobody cares about it because it hasn't happened to them. I'm here to tell you that there's going to be a time where you're going to hear this conversation. It's going to be about you. So how much is your life worth to you? Why do we continue to behave badly? More importantly, why do our supervisors allow that to happen? In your firehouse, we could put on social media today, if you grab your phone like most of you are already doing, look at social media and you'll see firefighters behaving badly. Why, knowing all the information that we've been given, does that still occur? Why are we still behaving badly? That's a question I would love to have answered. There are so many people in this room that have made monumental efforts to ensure that we have all of the most relevant, up-to-date information about firefighting and cancer. We've done education awareness programs. We've collaborated with all the institutions to make sure that the top researchers dedicate themselves to good, relevant, tangible information to be delivered to the fire service. And all that has been done, yet we still behave badly. We still don't wear SCBAs during overhaul. We still fight car fires 5 feet away from them. We still don't get medical exams. Why?
And to answer the why, when I counsel patients and it relates to what Bryan is saying, is there are firefighters that want to be informed so they can help themselves. There are some that feel are invincible, and it's not going to happen to them. But if you're uninformed and something happens to you, it's a circumstance. But if you're informed and you do something and something happens to you, then it's a choice. And you get to live the consequences of that choice. The effort here from these people is not to reach, at least not for me. I've never been one or two to preach overreaching paternalism, even though I'm a preventive medicine doc. But there is this free will that we all have in which we get to inform the masses, and then the masses get to make a choice. And I think it's the rule rather than the exception that we want to be helped. And again, thank you to all the folks here at the University of Miami and all the independent researchers. And thank you to all of you that go back to your firehouses and convey this message. And are you going to find the naysayer? Absolutely. I spoke about them this morning. They're out there. Are we going to try to help them? Absolutely. But you can lead the horse to the water. You know how that expression ends. But we're here to convey knowledge, insight, and information based on the research that these great folks give us. That's the mission.
Well, and I'll tie into that. The mission, I agree with you, but it's also the action that needs to be taken as a result of the research.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Absolutely.
and again, my comments are probably harsh, they're probably not very friendly, and they're not designed to be. The expectation that all of you should have leaving this room is that you're going to be given opportunities to change what you're doing, to align with industry best practices. That's the point of my comments and my remarks. I think Dr. Woog says it well when, yeah, people have a choice, I get that. But the reason that you're all here is because you want to make the good choices. And I applaud every single one of you for sitting in here listening to this, trying to make yourselves better and your organizations better.
Yeah, for every one of you that comes and agrees with what's being conveyed here, there is a certain number that will come and will square off with me and say, you're a fearmonger, you're a naysayer, this is not happening, you're not reading the literature. That's why I closed this morning with, if you have somebody that doesn't believe, come talk to me. We'll talk. Because they're out there, and our job is to try to change that culture into one that is healthier. And we're making great strides. 20 years ago, he started. When I was a young firefighter, and to the firefighters that are here, we talked about what we were going to do in retirement. Now what they're talking about is what chemotherapy they're on. I never talked about that when I was a young firefighter. So why the change, in such a negative way? So the charge here, and again, I applaud all of you guys, is how do we change a culture when we have all this body of evidence that is supporting us? And That's the goal.
Go ahead.
Well, I would just add to, there is, over the last 10 years, and really because of the great work that many of the folks that are on the panel, as well as many of you out in the audience have done, and certainly what the FCI has done to kind of get this energy going. If you look back a few years ago, we were doing decon and buckets and stuff, but now you could ask yourselves in your own departments, we know what the research has provided, we know what that does, but is it actually being done? And I see a lot of people shaking their heads out there and saying it's not. I mean, these are real things that we can do to reduce our risks. And today we've had some conversations here about PFAS and stuff that's in your gear, and it's somewhat non-controllable, right? Because you have only gear that has PFAS in it. But we're talking about some things that are controllable, and to Bryan's point about why we fight a car fire that has nobody in it and we're like in it, it's really more because we want to get a great social media pick than anything really, than actually saving anything, because the insurance companies aren't going to do anything with those cars when they're fully involved. So we have to reevaluate the way we've done our tactics, the way we've done some things in the past, and we certainly are when we talk about lithium-ion batteries and certainly the EV issue. We're going to certainly, it's probably one of the most challenging things the fire service is going to be doing with the way we operate. But I would just say there's a lot of good things that are happening as well in the fire service. So we're seeing major changes happen. A lot of, the fire service is very competitive, and I see a lot of departments spending millions and millions of dollars on different things, whether it's different types of apparatus or different types of exhaust capture or different multiple sets of gear, or we're seeing departments move to extrication gear since the joint statement came out from the IFF and the Metro Chiefs. They're looking at all these different ways. So I see an evolution where the fire service is doing exactly that, evolving as the change in the research is coming out. And I think this is something that's actually a good thing, and I think we're going to continue to evolve as more research comes out.
And I'll follow up with instilling best practices, as the chief said. In June 3rd of 2016, this guy right down here, Brian McQueen, and Jim Seavey, representing the IAFC VCOS section and the National Volunteer Fire Council, developed the initial ideas of the Lavender Ribbon Report. And these 11 best practices, and each of you have a copy of this in your packet, your bags. These best practices are simple steps that all firefighters, all leaders within the fire departments should be applying and carrying out, because this is what makes a difference, and this is what changes behavior. So we can print it, and we had a follow-up in 2022, but if it sits on a shelf, it doesn't do anything. So we have to make sure that they are applied. So instilling best practices is how we change behavior, and it has to be enforced from the top. So.
Great, thank you. I'd love to hear from Chief Pauley or Chief Grubbs on your specific subgroups and how they're different than structural firefighters and what your goals and priorities are.
So I'm going to take things a little in a different direction, but not much, because really research and education is the important stuff. 2 years ago at this event, Kenny Fent, who we all know and love, made the statement that the average career firefighter was in the fire environment between 1% and 5% of their working time, okay? We've got about 1.1 million firefighters in the U.S., 75% or so volunteer. We've got somewhere, and it's a loosey-goosey number, but somewhere around 12,000 fire investigators. Are they public? Are they private? Are they doing both? It gets vague. But let's go with that. So essentially that equates to 1%. Those of you who are in the fire service here, present today and virtually, think about the number of fire investigators that you have in your organization, an underserved population. So if you take, there are a lot of work schedules for career folks. Probably one of the most common, 24 on, 48 off, right? So if you don't take any vacation time, that equates to 2,880 hours on a year. So if you want to get your calculator out and do the math, I'm going to do it for you. 1%, 28.8 hours. 5%, 144 hours. We did a limited study here with University of Miami a few years ago, 35 fire investigators from North Carolina, public and private, and came up with an average in the environment time of 3 hours. Some are more, some are less, but let's go with the 3. So for a fire investigator to get to 28.8, we'll round it up to 30 to make the math simple. He or she only has to go to 10 fires a year for the same equivalent exposure. Or 44 fires a year to get to the 5%. Many fire investigators in this country are going to many more than that. I know private fire investigators who were public, of course, before, and they may do both, that go to an excess of 200 fires a year. If the IARC has said that the occupation of firefighting with that 1 to 5% exposure is a known cancer occupation, what are fire investigators? You can't go above group 1, but it's like group 1 plus. But because there's only a few thousand of us in the US, the research is virtually non-existent. They're little pockets. Gavin Horn's here. We did a great out 5 days research project a couple years ago with their group that's published. That's wonderful. Here at UM, there's something in progress, but that's it. I'm a full fan of research. I'm a full fan of education and sharing the wealth, but this is an underserved population that needs a lot more work, a lot more research, and I'll gladly take some help of people sitting up here and champion the cause besides just me. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Chief Grubbs, anything you want to add?
That's all.
Yeah, where are we? On the wildland side, we're behind. Just humor me. If you're a structure firefighter, raise your hand. Raise them up nice and high. Come on, get them up. Be proud. Good. All right, go ahead and put them down. If you're a wildland firefighter, raise your hand.
I did 5 years.
Come on, raise them up. So do you see my point? We are really behind on education, the process. For us in the Florida Forest Service, we started about 6 years ago doing a comprehensive medical with a cancer screening. Now, for the Florida Forest Service, for those of you that don't know, we have about 700 firefighters, just shy of 700. And we have 10% over the last 6 years that they found something, a nodule, something that needed to be followed up on. Out of that 10%, 10 folks, actually, there was something found that they needed advanced care immediately and had to have surgery and is going through cancer treatment. So that's eye-opening. We are so far behind on getting the education out there to our folks and to our people. And this is the bleed over for those of you that work in fire departments that do wildland firefighting. What type of gear do you wear when you go to that wildland fire? Do you wear all of your PPE? For us, our PPE hasn't changed since the late 70s when we went from cotton shirts and jeans to the Nomex now that we wear. And now we're finding out that PFAS could be in the DuPont Nomex that we're wearing. So it's scary. It's alarming to us. Thankfully, and again, the University of Miami reached out. We started working with UMER, started doing some studies, came out and got on some burns with us, and started looking at our gear and wearing the bands while the guys were burning. And they put together a presentation. Now, I do not have PhD behind my last name. I'm not a scientist, but I'm a relatively smart guy. If you tell me anything on the chart in red is bad, and you show me a chart with a lot of red, that's pretty bad, and that's where we were, and we are. So we are working with the University of Miami to do more comprehensive studies because that was just a couple of control burns. That's not a wildfire. That's stuff that we can control. The days of us fighting wildfires to going out there and it's just grass and trees are over. We have all kinds of illegal dumping in all the cities and everything where landfills are no longer taking the garbage. Where do you think they're throwing it? In the woods, fiberglass boats, mobile drug labs, and all this stuff, we have no idea that's there, and we're working in that smoke. Do you know what our breathing protection is in the wildland?
Bandana.
Nothing.
Pretty much nothing, a bandana. Whatever you want to hold over your nose is considered good and okay. We've got to do better. And that's where I look at, where do we want to go? I want to continue with this study. I'd never in my life thought I would be sitting up here amongst this panel, but here I am, a wildland guy, because I just keep knocking on the door. I keep knocking. Hey, look at us, look at us. We're firefighters too. We have 2 line of duty deaths due to cancer. It's within our arena as well. And thank you, University of Miami, for pairing with us, coming out, being in our control burns, and helping us and getting the research, because nothing changes without the numbers and without the research. Thank you.
Great, thanks for sharing. So today, we talked a lot about exposures, we talked about lifestyle changes. So those are many factors that impact cancer risk in the fire service. What main factor or something that you think we should really focus on in the near future or in the next 5 to 10 years?
Immediately, the ones we can control, coming full circle to this morning's talk, and control the ones you can control, and then pick one at a time, and a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Again, I'm accused of, you're claiming you're going to extinguish cancer in the fire service, and that's one of the tenets that General President Kelly voices. And yes, we can, but we do it one firefighter at a time. Through research, through education, through implementation, through prevention, early detection, early treatment, early intervention. So, to answer your question, the immediate ones are the unnecessary exposures that we know exist, that continue to exist.
This is a very complex problem. It's not black and white. It's a million shades of gray. And there's no shortage of work. And so prioritizing is challenging. And obviously this august body can help with that. And then we have to be reliant on the funding sources to agree. But there's no one problem. There's no one answer. Getting the message out continually. I had somebody tell me one time that it takes 5 to 7 years minimum to change the culture of an organization. Okay, probably right, but where does that have to start? It has to start at the top. It's any guys on the fire side done accreditation, any involvement in accreditation, it's a pain in the butt, but if the chief is not bought in to that process, it's going to fail. It is going to fail. Been there 3 times, 2 failed because of the chief. But we need to start the information sharing there. One of the bigger things that I see from an education standpoint, we're starting to do a better job, and this is a generalization maybe, we're starting to do a better job training the recruits, but we're not training the in-service people to the same level, the same stuff. And that's a problem. When I went to fire investigator school in Virginia 15 years ago, 3 weeks, I think, 4 weeks, I forget, it was a long time. And I showed up at the first fire scene with my boss, who was an old timer, and I'm wearing the PPE that we were taught to wear. And what was his first response? What are you wearing all that stuff for? Because he didn't know better. We need to do a better job of educating the people that are in the service, starting at the top, but getting everybody and bought in. And the simple stuff that we can fix, doing the decon, keeping people from using a K10 saw on an asbestos-siding house with no respiratory protection. I mean, there's no shortage of things that we can do in the fire service. And I like that term, right? I'm a proponent of the fire service because there's a lot of us, not just the first responders. But there are a lot of things that we can do, and we individually just need to be doing a better job of that.
I would add, cancer is the biggest health threat we have in the fire service. And we have to be united in what we're doing in bringing education to the fire service to reduce the risk of our boots on the ground. And in doing so, we have to fight the fight. And we heard the attorney this morning and Edzo speaking about, these manufacturers with the PFAS and the gear. We have to step up and fight, and now is the time to fight. So I think our biggest challenge is to go strong and go hard.
and that's the IAFF, right? Those of you that are members of the International Association of Firefighters might know that the IAFF, General President Kelly, leveraged litigation against NFPA because of standards that we think perpetuate the intoxication of firefighters. And in that same vein, he's joined forces with billion-dollar attorney firms to evaluate what recourse there is for the unmeasurable amount of PFAS exposures that we have sustained and continue to sustain to this day.
So I'll spin it a little bit different. I think that the key in the future is the collaboration piece. There's a lot of organizations that are doing a lot of great work. There's no question about that. And I think that, you know, some of them represented here really have that same united front to fight this. I also think that there's a lot of underrepresented folks that need to be studied, female firefighters especially, wildland firefighters. But I also think that we have to be very careful not to get too broad in our research and keep it focused so that we have the ability to have some sort of a tangible deliverable that can translate well into our practice. The one disadvantage of having so much brain power in one room is, you know, people like me who aren't very smart sit and listen to these really words like hetero, whatever that was earlier, homeopathic, whatever, I can't even say it. Okay, what does that mean to me? Because I don't know what that means. What does that mean? How do we get that information out? How do we disseminate that information to the fire service so they understand it? And then the second question is, how do we implement whatever that word was, and how does that apply to our practice? So I think that we're on a really good trajectory right now. I think we're recognizing and learning a lot more than we ever anticipated we'd learn. I know that because we're in it from the beginning. But the collaboration between the organizations and that translation into the firehouse is really the key to success in the continuation of this fight.
Yeah,
I'll
absolutely.
just add to what he just said, because I was going to say the same thing. He stole my thunder, but,
Sorry.
you know, this is a very complex, wide topic, right? And there's so many different routes to this. And I think it's very important to not only do the collaboration aspect of it, but to simplify this a lot. And we were talking and joking this morning, like, we need the TikTok version so that we can put that out in 30 seconds of what this really looks like on these topics, because that's really the span of attention that most of our folks, our younger generation, are coming in with, and they just want something, I need to know what this is right here, right now, and how do I address it? And certainly the leaders of the organizations need to implement those things, but we need more of that type of education to make sure that our younger folks really can grab a hold of this. Because when I look around the room, there's a lot of folks who have been here multiple years and have been, but we don't see the younger folks coming in, and it's important to make sure that they're a part of this.
And we're still in that same boat. We need that educational piece. You know, we just don't have that. Every pamphlet, every piece of literature that I have to pass out or get out there has nothing to do with wildland firefighting. It would be no different than if I came and just handed all you guys wildland firefighter pamphlets. It doesn't pertain to you and what you do on a day-to-day basis. So for us, that low-hanging fruit would be literature that is more wildland specific, that we could increase that educational component to get people more aware to start doing the things that they need to do.
Great. May I grab this question? Go ahead.
Hi, Rob Gresser, University of Pittsburgh. A couple of comments real quick. First of all, presumption laws. We got to have them. But the fight doesn't end once they're enacted. We've seen that in Arizona. Wonderful presumption laws out there. Cities are hiding behind third-party administrators. We've got to fight it, and if you have to, just blitzkrieg the media, and that the politicians listen then. The second thing is a request for all of you that are chiefs, deputy chiefs, policymakers in your departments. I come from a city, sorry, I'm nervous. A university that doesn't do much occupational health, a city that is anti-public safety. So we have a lot of trouble getting stuff done. This last summer, I sent out 110 surveys for my thesis, surveying the major fire departments around the country. 42 responded, not much problem. 28, we pulled teeth, and got responses. So we had 70 responses, but still 40 did not respond. If you can go back to your departments and just ask them, please, if a university approaches you, give it a look at least. Send it to somebody in health and wellness, because we're there to help, but we've got to crack that culture. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, Mike McKeon. I'm from Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. I've been involved with our FACE team for about 10 years now, and I guess some of the things that I'm coming to you with, you talked about the invincible symptom. You know, I'm one of those people who would do all the right things, you know, like things that are best practices. You mentioned, you know, the 11 and the 12 and the 14 and whichever number we're up to. I do those things. I guess where I'm trying to get to is helping firefighters understand, you know, once you mentioned about IARC 1, you know, there is no IARC 0, there is no 1+++, you know, so here we are, you know, and I guess what I'm trying to ask is for some direction on best practices of once those carcinogens, once those toxins have crossed the threshold, you know, crossed the mouth barrier for ingestion and crossed the dermal layer and gone in, once they've gone inhalation, you know, why we smell like a fire for 3 days post-fire, you know, those types of things to actively remove those toxins, you know. We have things, we're trying to look at our department of how to remove like plastic Tupperware, you know, from the station, or drinking from a plastic water bottle. Maybe it's not a good idea to drink hot coffee in a styrofoam cup, you know, things like that. But, you know, the gear that we wear, we know has the PFAS. We know has the carcinogens. We go in, it's got nothing, it just gets absorbed in us. So I guess I would love to see some of the science, some of the doctors that are here, just know, you know, things like blood donations. Is that beneficial for firefighters? You know, can we reduce our levels down? I don't want to say the S word, you know, but sweat, you know, like the benefits of sweating after these things, maybe even supplementation, things like binders to grab onto these toxins. I would love to see some of that, because I'll do all the prevention stuff. I'll get sprayed off and I'll take the shower within the hour and I'll wash my clothes, but I'm still gonna smell like a fire. So, you know, some of those things, to be able to go to our department and say, hey, this so-and-so, if we donate blood, let's do a blood donation. Let's get the sweat going, you know, things like that. So that's my thing, is just, you know, and also too, sir, you know, the wildland fires, you know, we implemented like the half mast, you know, to protect us, you know, but some of those things, once it's crossed the threshold, I'll wash my gear, but what are we doing for the body once it's crossed that threshold? So that's what I would love to see. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. All right, so we are.
She outran her.
Go to the mic, go to the mic, keep going.
One of your comments, you mentioned we have here a physician or provider or
She's gonna
medical community. I am one of them. And I represent American College of Occupational Medicine and American College of Preventive Medicine, both of them. I am a member of both. So my recommendation, every time when firefighters come to see me, and I have seen many firefighters in several states, not only in one, not lately, but before. And I give them, all of you, my best recommendations based on American College of Occupational Medicine guidelines. Do you hear me? What do you do after work? Do you protect like your supervisor tells you at work? Do you protect at home the same way? Because most of them, they are amazing. The chief, everybody, education, medical community who take care of firefighters, educate you. But what you follow recommendation at work with your PPEs, for example. We provide you, or the chief provide you, or the firefighter community provide you with the best in America, United States of America, because we are here, with the best PPEs. Firefighters follow recommendation at work, but what they do when they go home. And I understand people like work. They are very hardworking people, all the firefighters, okay? When they go home, they rest. They follow the recommendation with the PPEs. As simple as cutting their grass, hearing protection. Hope everyone understands what I'm saying. Thank you.
And
Thank you for your comment.
Since the comment was made in a clinical basis, I guess I need to say something. You spoke about blood donation. So Australia firefighters, Mick Tinsbury, did a study. He was invited by the University of Miami last year, phenomenal speaker, so you guys need to look him up. And Australian firefighters were separated into 3 groups. You guys can find the study is easily found. And one donated blood, don't quote me on the interval, but I think it was every 8 weeks. One donated plasma, I believe, every 6 or 4 weeks. And then one did nothing. And at the end of the study period, the ones that had donated plasma had a significant reduction in their PFAS level. The ones for blood had a reduction, and the ones that did nothing showed no change. So there is value in what's called therapeutic phlebotomy. The only thing that I would caution you is, what are the optics, right? Because if you're gonna do a blood drive to help the community, then it's phenomenal. But if your blood drive is to get rid of PFAS carcinogens and you're donating the blood, that may not pass your optics test. So make sure you phrase it correctly. In the study for Australia, the blood was donated for research. It ended up not being so, and it created scrutiny. That's why I'm cautioning you when you consider therapeutic phlebotomy. Does it work? Yes, it does. You mentioned SANA, one of the acronyms in that alphabet soup that comes after my name, which basically all those letters after my name just means that I have phenomenal student loan debt. That's all that means. That's all that means, okay? So ABOIM is American Board of Integrative Medicine, so I'm boarded in integrative medicine. I'm a doctor, I'm a preventive medicine doctor that's boarded in Chinese medicine and boarded in integrative medicine. So what you spoke about is near and dear to me. Supplements, nutrition, sauna, the wonderful dietitian that spoke before the group spoke about stressors. Your body does not have a different stress hormone for different stressors. Whether you're stressed from a physical, an emotional, a mental, a nutritional, or an environmental source, your body will squeeze the same stress hormone from your adrenal glands. So it's really important that we address everything that the fire service has stacked against it when it comes to carcinogenesis, as far as etiology. There's some fancy words for you. That's good. See? See? I paid $200,000 to be able to say that in medicine. All right.
I'll give you a quarter.
So we have the toxins we speak about. We have the PFAS, we have the antimony, the bromine, the chlorine, the fluorine, the phosphorus. We have all these methyl ethyl kilias. Then we have shift work, sleep deprivation. We have all these other stressors that collectively depress the immune system, and I am of the belief that cancer is a disease of the immune system. Your body is attacked by cancer all the time. Proof of that is that those of you that remember full-blown AIDS in the 80s, you remember what those patients look like. Those patients, a lot of them, had Kaposi's sarcoma. Kaposi's sarcoma is prevalent, and we're exposed to it every day, but an intact immune system fights it off. Start depressing your immune system, boom, Kaposi's sarcoma cancer develops. So to an extent, cancer is the inability of your immune system to compensate against a carcinogenic stressor. So it speaks central to your point that you would want to optimize your immune system as much as you can, but on the other side, you want to minimize the stressors, whatever its source.
I think a point that she was making also was that this is not only something that can be worked on when you're on shift. It's not just when you're at work. This is something that has to be done at home just as much as you are doing it at work. And so whether it's your habits, whether it's your health and fitness, it's not just we need to work out at the station. We certainly need to make sure that that's a priority, when we're off as well. Our sleep habits certainly have to be, there's got to be a good discussion on shift schedules and all the different things that could be helpful for circadian rhythm and all of it, but that has to be intentional also when you're off as well. And I think if folks don't make that intentional, we talked about the PFAS stuff at work, but man, you don't want to talk about fishing here in Florida with everybody on all the PFAS stuff that's in gear. It has to be intentional off work too. So we in the past, we used to say, leave your personal stuff at home, don't bring it at work. We separated our lives, right? We can't do that. I mean, the reality is that no science research has been up there where you can separate your body from what you do at home and what you do at work. And so those things cross over. And so we have to make sure that certainly there's policy and procedures and we're focused on this when we are at work, but we have to be just as focused when we're not at work as well in our personal lives.
Thank you. I know you've been standing, so last question, and then I know we have to go to posters.
More of a statement. First off, thanks for the panel, because it's nice to see that we can have the IFF and the volunteers talking. A long time ago, wildfires, we wouldn't think of wildfires as Superfund sites. When you burn down a whole neighborhood and everything melts into the ground, you have an instant Superfund site. We have to think different. The challenge here is what can we do with the tools that we have in the toolbox? And I would challenge you that if you're on a health trust board, if you're on a pension board, one thing that you can do is you can demand that, hey, let's look for innovation. Let's try and find companies that do innovation that can help save our members' lives. That can put money back into research. There's all different types. For example, there's a term called family office. What's a family office? It's like a Michael Dell. It's like very, very wealthy people that like firefighters, that like first responders, that like police officers. They can dump tons of money into research and move the needle. But it only happens if we're involved. So there's other ways to help. Step up to the plate. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, guys. I think this is an amazing panel. So thank you for your time. We're going to move to poster session and networking. Everyone will be here that you guys can ask questions.